Hey guys, welcome to the Cloud Computing Insider, the one place where we understand how to make cloud computing work for your enterprise. I'm your host, David Linthicum, author, speaker, B-list geek. And today we're going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. As you know, I've done lots of LinkedIn learning courses on observability, wrote about it extensively in my last book. And I'm really excited today about our guest who understands a lot about observability. And not only that, has the goods, has the technology, allows you to make it work. Jasper Paul. He's the principal product manager at Manage Engine site 24/7. And he's got 20 years experience in the IT industry, leading innovation in observability, AI ops, and cloud infrastructure. So fill in the rest of the pieces, Jasper. Tell us about how you got to, how you got to the company where you are now, and what are you working on, and what kind of motivates you in life as far as your career goes.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. It's wonderful to meet again. We have already spoken previously. I think a couple of years back. It's always great to catch up with you and how the tech has changed now. So with the advent of AI and stuff, right? So my journey, I started around 20 years back. Right, I finished my college in 2006, and it's going to be 20 years in the industry. And I've been there with Manage Engine, then Site 24/7 for over 15 years now, right? So touching upon the 15th year uh, in a couple of months. So it's been a long journey, right? As most, I started my career as an engineer, software engineer, slowly moved along the path of developing desktop apps, and then moved into web and servers and cloud. Uh, so I kind of transitioned into the product side of things, right? So after around almost around 10 years back, and since then it's all been know how observability works and how it has changed the market, right? Starting with how we traditionally it was legacy, then it moved to this full stack observability, and continuing with the full stack observability, adjacent markets merged together. Kubernetes came, cloud came in, FinOps was a factor to take care of. All these were markets maturity and problem solving ability, right? So it's been exciting. It's never a dull day in the office, I would say, right? So it's been great so far, and now I'm here to share the experiences as well.
Well, people come here to learn, and one of the things that I would like to, kind of get into is the definition of observability. So, how would you define? You just kind of went through a brief synopsis of it, but what would the formal definition of observability be, and how do people know it when they see it?
Uh, yeah, so I would put observability into two stages, right? So one would be the basic monitoring that any IT infrastructure must have. Without that, you're going to lose a lot of basic uptimes. Are going to get a hit for you, right? You can either use a legacy tool, inbuilt tool. Many organizations still do have inbuilt technologies that they use, even without using their open source, right? So there are a lot of open source tools in the market, but even then, teams or organizations use their own legacy tools because they tend to maintain legacy software itself, right? So that's when the monitoring space would start, right? But it would end there, I would say. There's no visibility into what connects to those resources or servers that are being operated on. What are the applications that are hosted on it? What are the bottlenecks or the anomalies that are affecting that system? All those things are a black box. That is called, that's typically in the observability world, it's called as the unknown, right? Now there is an unknown of unknown because you don't know what's happening, uh, and the the complexity of the infrastructure space compounds due to the fact that now it's on the cloud, it's now containerized, and how applications behave in those microservices environments. That complexity compounds, and that brings in additional information or additional telemetry data, right? So how do you pick the needle in the haystack when something goes wrong? That's when observability comes into play, right? So to give a synergy between a real world and how IT works, I would say legacy systems are like thermometers, right? So you have a cold or a cough and you have high temperature. You take the thermometer and it says high temperature, but you don't know why, right? So to understand or to know why this is happening, you go to a doctor, and the doctor gives you some prescriptions, right? So diagnostic uh, methods to determine why your temperature is high, right? So and and the results come in, and now you go to the doctor again and check with him, and then now you have a very clear picture of why it happened, because he checks the past history. He checks whether you had any food that was not uh, good for you, whether you had something cold. All these things are factors that you have to consider why a simple temperature got shut up, right? So this is how I would compare a legacy monitoring system and an observability system, right? To give a very basic or very straightforward comparison, right? And that's the observability landscape today we are in.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. I think that moving forward, like even, observability is not optional. And one of the things I always tell my clients is that they're going to understand the value of your system as it operates, as an operational state. It's not going to be as it comes out in day one. And your ability to kind of keep it up and running is not just to have these monitoring tools, so you're looking at every aspect of it, but the ability to react and respond to the way that to the data points that these things are putting out on you, and your ability to do so in such a way where you're going to maintain performance, maintain uptime, maintain quality of service, which is core to building some of these systems. In fact, changing gears here is that people are moving into AI. Suddenly they're getting into the next generation of observability. I mean, I'm talking about inference and training models and pipelines, things like that. And I'm telling my customers as they're moving into generative AI systems or agentic AI systems that the observability stack and the technology you need to leverage, has to accommodate for the special needs of AI. Can you talk about, what that is, and people who are contemplating AI right now, what they should be considering, or perhaps people who have stubbed their toes on AI and getting it up and running, how to fix it in terms of observability?
Sure, David. Yeah, yes. So AI is the hot stuff here, and it's not going to change. We have to adopt the agentic world or the AI world, the generative AI world. I'm sure everyone who's logging into this podcast would have used AI in some form or the other on a daily basis. Cut down on the searches that are doing in the search engines. So all these are happening. It's real. It's become a reality, and it's been immensely helpful, right? So now, how do that ease of use is helping us in our day-to-day work life, right? And that's when the agentic workflows and use cases come into play. That is the other world where how you so it's very nascent in nature. So everyone is experimenting on how it can ease my usage or ease my daily work, right? How it can help you reduce my daily work, and that's at a personal level. And when that happens, how do you apply that to the applications or the infrastructure that you are running on, and how observability's data is used in a way that it helps them mitigate the problems or the incidents that are taking place, right? So if you take our company itself, right? So Zoho Corp, as a company, have invested a lot in the agentic or the generative AI technology. So we have taken a slightly different route rather than going to the public cloud providers. We do have a bring your own keys and stuff. So we have all these in place, but we also are investing a lot in building our own infrastructure for the generative AI space and use that as consumptions inside the organizations, right? So that's something that we are focusing on, and that's going to be leveraged in every single product. We have close to 100 plus products in Zoho Card, half of them focusing on the zoho.com domain, focusing on the business side of things, and the manageengine.com domain focusing on the IT side of things, right? So both are built on the same infrastructure. We have close to 9 or 10 data centers, the data center regions that we have, that brings in data compliance and so on and so forth. And how this agentic space is evolving is we are making efforts to have this agent studios, agent marketplace, where agents can be built with just prompts, right? So we have an agent studio that's already live for initial beta, and prompts are given based on the personas, right? So for SREs, for operational engineers, or for administrators. So right, these are all the personas that are being built as agents, and these agents are going to now be part of everyday workflows, right? So either to administer the products that are on offer, or not to do automated definitive automated actions, right? So with the human in the loop, right? So these are the workflows that are being done today, and some of them are live and can be tried out, and some of them are work in progress, right? So uh, so these are the things I would say, we are stepping towards, how agentic flows are coming in. That's the other world where how you basically monitor and observe the AI itself, right? So how you mitigate hallucination and so on. So those are some of the things that we are doing a lot of R&D as well.
Yeah, what I love about your solution is you're not agent washing or AI washing everything. In other words, you're building it from the ground up to handle these kinds of workloads, which I think is absolutely, what the companies need to do out there, because everybody's just kind of repositioning their stuff, typically through marketing, search and replace, and coming up with AI. And it sounds like you guys are building this stuff from the ground up to make sure that you're capturing the best practices in observability and able to build that into the workloads. So what advice would you give an enterprise that's moving to AI strategically? In other words, they're going to use it as a true force multiplier, innovative differentiator for the business. It's going to mean everything to the business. And lots of organizations are moving in that direction. How should they consider observability requirements? Should they evaluate observability technology? What should they look for? And what would success look like?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I will just answer it in parts, right? So some of today, if you take a basic monitoring solution in place, which we call as legacy, it's obviously not enough, right? Why is it not enough? Because it creates siloed visibility, right? So you have a network team, or you have a DBA, or a database team, or you have an infrastructure team. Now you have a cloud team, right? And all these guys can sit in silos. It would still work. You get a bunch of alerts that's going to be, but you cannot correlate that, right? Why you can't correlate? Because there's no relationship that you can actually have with that, right? So you can probably reconcile and so on. There are tools that can do that, but proper 100% reconciliation, rule based things are there's always a percentage of error that you need to take into account when considering that, right? So that's the primary reason why there's full stack observability, right? And when the whole infrastructure is behaving as expected, but your application is not performing up to the mark, right? You get anomalies for transactions or business critical transactions that are there that you have hosted on your cloud or on-prem. How do you troubleshoot that, right? So you can't go to your application team in the middle of the night and wake them up. Of course, you need to do when there's a critical problem that has to be solved right then and there. But typically it's the operations team or the SRE teams that takes care of that, right? So, but they need to know what is the actual problem in real time, right? And if your platform is unable to do that, your business is going to get affected, right? If a customers or a region where customers are experiencing slowness is not addressed, then you're potentially losing your business value, and your reputation is being put at stake, right? These are some of the things that you should first consider when running your business, right? When you're setting up your IT or infrastructure, these are all the factors that you need to consider, right? So I would say you start there, right? And then obviously the nature of your business would involve compliance, security, data sovereignty, and so on. So as I said, you need to have data sovereignty. Either you have it all on your data center. So management has two solutions in the FSO platform, in the full stack observability platform. One is on the cloud, which is Site 24/7. The other is on-prem, right? So which is Op Manager Plus. So both have same feature sets and deployment. The only thing is the deployment mode that differs, right? So uh, the call has to be made from how you are consuming your data, and based on the compliance needs as well. So these are high level decisions that we need to make, and from there you go on, right? And then of course with the amount of data that is ingested as metrics into the system, as logs into the system, as traces into the system, you need to understand that all these are uh, how you find the problem, right? So how you find the unknown of unknowns, how your anomalies are reacted to it, how proactively you address the incidents before an outages is impacting the user, right? So these are some of the vital decisions that every IT team or every IT manager and director has to take into account. And then, of course, it has to blend within your ecosystem of your service management, and know how you collaborate with your internal IT teams and so on, right? So integrations also plays a vital role in how you set up your, the whole observability platform itself.
I love that answer. Very comprehensive. And I think and what's important, what I heard you say is really kind of thinking through the issue. In other words, if this is going to have a systemic value that's going to be within the systems, you're working from the system requirements back to the observability solution, then back to the enabling technology you need to leverage. And then you talked about how your technology can be backed into those sorts of problem domains to solve the issue, which is, I think, what many enterprises are missing right now. So what's happened, Jasper, is we're moving into these overly complex, heterogeneous environments now. So multi-cloud is common. It's not just the exception, it's the rule now. People are using hybrid cloud, on-prem systems, edge computing. Computing is everywhere now. We're not moving to a single cloud provider. So we need to build, end-to-end visibility within these things, so we're able to bind them together and manage them in ways in which they're going to have operational excellence. In other words, if everything's going to exist on different platforms, heterogeneity is going to be commonplace, then operational complexity is going to be an end result of that. So how do you approach end-to-end visibility, multi-cloud, hybrid, containerized environments, all that kind of stuff that's out there now?
Yeah. So again, it comes back to how you want to observe your the whole environment, right? So you have obviously you have multiple teams, and teams which have very experienced people, right? It's all about how you manage your people as well as how you manage the resources there, right? Some team structures are very siloed in nature, right? And some have bridges in between, and some have teams together, right? So it's a very organizational structure that you also have to take into account when setting up your observability platform, right? So as you said, rightly said, there is multi-cloud, there's hybrid, there's containerized environments. Your containerized environments are the applications that are hosted on them, right? Whereas your core data might reside in your data center, which is not on the cloud. Now it's hybrid, right? And for redundancy and failover, you use another cloud to have backups, right? Now it becomes multi-cloud, right? So now inherently your system becomes complex, right? And if there is a connectivity issue from your backend data center, which is fetching data and pushing it into the cloud, or connecting to your internal databases for your core system, if that is not working, then your user experience is affected for the end user. But he doesn't care whether you're having it on-prem, on cloud, or container, or you're using the latest technologies, you're using AI. He doesn't care, right? All he wants is, when I log in, I need to see my data. I need to ensure the work gets done, and that's it, right? If that is not happening for the end user, then whatever investment that you're doing doesn't matter, right? And now if you have siloed teams, and if you have siloed infrastructure management teams that are operating, then it's going to be a huge problem coordinating with all those teams, right? uh, and that is where typically organizations look for a full stack solution, and effectively to manage their, for example, their VMware infrastructure, which is primarily on-prem, or their core switches that connect to different offices worldwide, right? So and people who are connecting to VPN. These are all technologies, or assumptions we have that everything would work. But at the back end, there is NOC team, there is a SOC team, there is a cloud ops team, there is a DevOps team that handles all these things. And with the right RBAC controls for observability. So we have these all these technology stacks. We support over 600 plus technology stacks out of the box, and you can expand to ingest any metric into the system. So be it IT or business, right? So you have a data lake platform that you can ingest business metrics, right? So if you are looking at signups to cost advantage, or how what is the variations of that, you can still do it with the platform, right? So when everything is in one place, right, it's much more easier for teams within the teams to coordinate as well, right? So the blame gains reduce. You have data at one single place that you can actually check, right? So validate what is going wrong, and you have alerting and mechanisms where you can club your objectives, right? So we have service level objectives, right? The SLOs. You can define your SLO to ensure that SLO is met with the KPIs that you are defining that SLO with, right? The SLIs. So these are some of the key aspects that would work when the data is together. An SLO cannot be defined if you have different metrics in different systems. It has to have very seamless way to have that SLO in place, right? So I would say these are some of the primary aspects that uh, every multi-cloud, hybrid cloud environments would look for, and observability platform would make it a lot more easy for them.
Yeah, I think it's a great list, and that's the big challenge right now. I think we're moving to AI, and I think those sorts of specialized workloads, inference and training, things like that, are going to have specialized observability needs.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, this becomes kind of a game of dealing with complexity abstraction, your ability to take multiple very complex systems and put core processes and tools around it, like the tools you guys sell. Just kind of make it a little bit more turnkey for people who don't want to, live in the world of monitoring and solving tactical problems the entire time. The ability to see what the systems are doing, to be able to respond, react to, things like that. So we have every organization has data. They view their data as being valuable to the company. Obviously, business data, inventory data, things like that. When you deal with observability, you're dealing with observability data, which certainly has some value and some uses. I don't think people really kind of understand that. So how do we turn observability data, or the data that's generated from observability, into business value or business outcomes?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So a lot of times we tend to get carried away by the technical prowess that you want to tell to your boss, right? So I have XYZ metric. I have a very complex metric that I have discovered and ingested into the system. But for the director, even it doesn't matter much. For you, it does matter, but how do you translate that into your business outcome, right? So, for example, you have your the thread count, right? So, what is a thread count for the end user? It doesn't matter, right? But when your thread count is has reached a capacity, then your overall user experience drops. And so your latency increases, your response time increases, the database connections are timed out, and a lot of effects take into place, right? So how do you translate that? So that's when you typically define your SLOs, right? So your SLOs for how you have your AppDex score. An AppDex score is basically an SLO where you have your error rate, your thresholds, and your response time calculated together to define your SLO. And what does that mean? You get a typical score between 0 and 1, 1 being the highest with satisfaction rate of 1, and 0 being the lowest, where the user is basically frustrated that the application is not behaving as it should, right? So if your AppDex score is maintained at between 1 and 0.9, your application is good, and your user experience is good as well, right? So that's one part, right? So now you go in today's world, if you take the agentic use cases or the MCPs of the world, uh, everything is transacted through the API that you have built, right? So your API has to perform, or it has to give the data object that you request for, right? And then that has to be fed into the MCP system, right? So you have to ensure that your APIs are actually up and running. One, two, it gives the right objects that is required for MCPs to translate into actions, right? So these are cases where backend system translates into business objectives. It's your business objective is to enable your applications or your customers to use AI to finish a part of their job, right? But if your APIs are not working, then that's a big user experience problem for the end user who's using or who's enabling AI into the system, right? And given the nature of work that we do today, every system has an inbuilt AI technology that they would use. And how you would translate that into a business outcome. This is another example that you can give, right? So the other example would be how you use, if you are in a Kubernetes environment, or your how your pods are behaving, how your containers are behaving for the applications that are deployed in that. For what is the business outcome for that? If your payment gateway, if your payment deployment is not working as expected, you are going to have a business loss. And how will you measure the business loss, right? So you ingest metrics that would correlate between your business and your backend system, and then come to a conclusion that come to a definite conclusion that saying that because of due to this backend infrastructure or application problem, I have this X percentage of cost that has incurred for me, right? So if you are using your cloud resources, right? So suddenly, due to an anomaly in your cluster, you have scaled horizontally, right? But you need not scale. You need not have scaled horizontally if your code was optimized, right? So in a place where your cluster is a 3-node cluster, if you have a 10-node cluster, your cost is so much high, and that will translate into how you are passing this on to your customer, right? You obviously want to have that profit in place, but if your code is not optimized, then your infrastructure cost is high, but you cannot be competitive in the market. That is a business outcome that you need to justify, right? So that's when you optimize. And how do you optimize? You use the tool to probably test it out, debug, find the code flaw that is part of the tracing system that is there in the observability platform. You find out which span is causing the issue at a particular load that is given to it, and you optimize it. Now, when you optimize that, your infrastructure cost automatically can come down, and that you measure using some of the FinOps tools that is available in the market. We have our own tool called Manage Engine Cloud Spend. The tool actually gives you full-fledged cost for your multi-cloud environment, right? So cost analytics for your multi-cloud environment. You use those tools, and that is tightly tied up with your observability platform as well. So use both in tandem together and get the business outcome. And you have reports, dashboards that you can share with your CIOs or CXOs to have data-driven business outcomes, right? That's how I would say you get the best value of the observability to the business outcome.
Yeah, that's a great guidance, Jasper. I mean, you're kind of taking my understanding of observability to the next level. People who are working in the space, you're seeing more problem domains and figuring out how to get this stuff, in the hands of enterprises are able to use it as a true force multiplier and get the observability in there so the systems continue to run and they have self-healing operations and the ability to, get to a scalable framework without the risk of outages, out the risk of performance issues. So let's go on to questions. We got a few that are coming in, and please ask your questions in the comments. If you're on LinkedIn, please enter a comment below. If you're on YouTube, please enter a comment below. And if you're on X, please enter a comment below. But first one comes in. How do you justify the investment in observability to leadership when legacy monitoring seems good enough? Love to hear the answer to that one.
Yeah, so I think probably I've answered that before at the start itself. So teams tend to be, kind of cozy in the chair. Uh, they have all the monitoring in place and they are happy with it, and that's a very siloed nature of looking at things. Right. So when what happens is there are blind spots now getting created. There's a CPU alert, and the thermometer example comes into place, right? So you only know that something is breached. You don't know why. You have to run a lot of diagnostics, and those diagnostics maybe not be available in your uh, purview, right? So the data is not there with you. Data is there with some other team. But how do you ensure that this is correlated? So now, only when you have your application or when you have your network within the whole landscape of the platform that you are looking into, where the alert came from, you would have the diagnostic data to ascertain the root cause of a problem, right? So how you correlate the events that are occurring in your place is something that you have to take into consideration, and that's when the leadership with experience take informed decisions based on past problems, right? So the other thing is compliance, right? Uh, so if you take the compliance landscape, a lot of laws are coming in for every region that is the business runs in. And the laws of the land state that your data has to reside in that space, right? So those are legal and business decision that has to be taken into account. Point three, how you protect your customer experience, right? So uh, what I mean by that is your customers are your end goal, right? So you have to make your customer happy. Only then customers are the voices of for your products or for your tool sets that you are giving out to them. When they enjoy the customer experience, the speed at which you give the data that they ask for will ensure that they stay with your business, pay for the product that you sell, right? Or pay for the service that you offer. uh, those are the things that matter. And if you are still on a legacy system, if you're still on a system where applications, infrastructure, network, end user experience, all are siloed, then obviously there's going to be a longer time in resolving when an incident happens. And I'm sure incidents are bound to happen. We have systems in place so that we are curbing those incidents to become an outage and impact the end users. And that's how you protect your customer experience as well. So an investment in observability will all solve all these problems, right? So it will reduce your downtime cost. It will reduce your mttr, mean time to a response to for an incident, because the data is within the system and you can troubleshoot it much more faster, right? So I would justify those are the things. So when you have a longer incident resolution versus you have a unified telemetry for incident RCA, you have higher churn or SLA breaches versus you have early detection of those SLA, so that your response to that SLA is adhered to, right? So these are some of the things I would uh, put forth for any leader to, when they say, hey, I'm happy with my monitoring. But I would ask these questions, and if they are not getting the answers, I would just suggest them to try out the observability platform.
Yeah, and just to build on that exceptional answer, the way I would, kind of frame it in summary is you're not going to get the granularity with many of the legacy systems that you have, and so it's not good enough. You're not getting the data. That Jasper just made an excellent point. You're not going to get the data to know when to change the configuration, when to up the performance, and ultimately that's going to be end users, people in the organization, and your customers are going to see the impact of that, and that's going to count on real money. I've seen balance sheets where that's millions of dollars companies are spending a month just because their systems are not running up to par. So next question, what are the most effective strategies for using observability data to control and optimize multi-cloud costs? We talked about that with end-to-end.
Yeah. That's a very recent problem that you need to solve, right? So with the advent of cloud, over 10 years now, it has 10 to 12 years, it has now matured a lot, right? A very small story, we started, Zoho.com started very early, right? We started way back in 2006. I think it's now going to be the 20th year to start Zoho.com as a cloud product, which means this actually started before AWS was born. AWS was born in around 2006-7 time frame. At that time frame, we also started our cloud business. So we have a very long history, and we have gained expertise on how to run our own things on the cloud. We have built our own frameworks. So what has that done for us? It has given the ability to be resilient when things go down south, right? And also has given the ability to look for modern ways to scale as and when needed, in terms of business and in terms of how you deploy infrastructure as well, right? So that's how we started. But then the explosion of the cloud for businesses and startups to go to market early, to gain the business share, right? So to gain the market share and to execute from there and to scale up from there. Cloud and infrastructure became a commodity. You just have to get your AWS or Azure licenses in place, or sign up. You subscribe, you pay as you go, take the pay as you go model, and with the amount of discounts and business goals that these AWS and Azure's offer for startups and organizations, you can easily build your application and worry less about the infrastructure that is being hosted. If you want to have your own racks, set up your own network, all that is now eliminated or put into a site. You now grow as a business, but now suddenly you say that your cost is huge, not and your business value, and you may not be able to be as competitive as you want to be, right? Because you are spending so much for your cloud infrastructure. That's when tools like cloud spend come into play, right? When how you ensure your operations are intact, right? So how you have a cost governance, you have budgeting for your cost. When your when an infrastructure cost exceeds, you have your alerting in place, so that you are knowing what is going on in terms of how you are using your infrastructure. One, and there's a cost cashback that you can have as well, right? So all those things are taken into account. You also can run some of the optimization tests, or you can run your A/B tests. You can have uh, instances. So you have an M4 or an M6 that you have deployed. You can, if your M6 is running within the within the set KPIs or within the set metrics, you can try experimenting moving away from M6 to an M4 maybe, right? So, and check whether your load is good, right? So load is optimized to M4, and that with that observability tool in place, you could do that before and after, right? So, and when that is there, your your finance, your CFO is also going to be happy, right? So you have reduced your cost. So these are some of the optimizations or cloud cost controls that you can have. And when obviously when you have the AI accelerators now being in the market, and for public cloud providers to give access to that, your cost controls have to be in check, right? So there are a lot of experiments that can be done, but you also need to ensure that your cost is you take that cost percentage into account as well. What is the percentage of cost that you can experiment with? How you typically do that is you have governance, you set up your tags correctly, right? Tagging your resource or your environment is paramount for having cost governance in place, right? So having tag profiles, you said have a set of rules that you define, and you have a set of business units that you can define. With that, you'll be able to have cost governance in place. You'll have to have observability that you can manage very well, right? So, and those are some of the factors I would say to effectively manage your multi-cloud costs, given the fact that today every third organization has a multi-cloud strategy, be it small startups or mid-sized companies or enterprises, all have multi-cloud in place. No organization today has a single cloud, right? So for some use case or another, another cloud is used. So how do you see all those cloud expenditure in a single place? That's something that you need to think about, right? So uh, cloud spend is one such tool I would say to really focus and explore, so that you have cloud cost analytics for AWS, Azure, GCP, and Oracle as well, right? So so these are some of the things that I would say one has to look for an effective strategy to combine observability and FinOps.
Yeah, that was a great answer. And I think it's something that, people need to consider. Observability is typically not as well understood within enterprises, as you know, Jasper, as it should be. And it's probably one of the three legs of the stool that you're going to need to get your systems up and running. There has to be operational control as well as execution development, things like that. And as people are pushing some of these AI systems out, I can't stress enough, especially on the cloud and these very heterogeneous, complex environments, get your observability game in order. We always talk about on this channel how cloud computing can fail if you don't have a certain amount of technology know-how in place and the ability to modernize the existing systems. And so if you're building systems and you're relying on your old legacy stuff to get you forward, that's just not going to do it. You need to basically redo your observability strategy, look at your observability stack, and end up using observability tools that are going to be full stack tools. So where can we find more information about your tools and technology and yourself?
So we are an observability platform. We are from Manage Engine, right? So Site 24/7 is the cloud product, and Op Manager Plus is the on-prem version of the observability product. And then I'm in LinkedIn. Yeah, it's Jasper Paul. I'm always there in LinkedIn, in X, in other platforms as well. So yeah, so that's about it. And just have a look at the the solution. I'm sure everyone would help would gain in using the observability platform. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, valuable information. Ultimately, keep in mind how important this stuff is. Keep in mind how it's important that you understand who the enabling technology providers are. Keep in mind, basically how to explain the value of this stuff, as you're going to meetings with an IT. And that's the big thing right now. We not only have to explain the value of moving to AI, moving to cloud-based deployments and things like that, but also the value of tools are going to enable those things to be successful. And those are just as important, guys. We talk about that all the time. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, check out my other videos here. Also, check out my InfoWorld Cloud Computing blog, my 100+ LinkedIn Learning courses, and my Generative AI Architecture course out on Go Cloud Careers, and my latest book, Insider's Guide to Cloud Computing. So thank you very much. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you, Jasper.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. Yeah, it was a great time. Yeah.
You got it.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.